I've been a nurse for nearly 10 years, but the night shifts always feel eerie. The hospital I work at is old, with narrow hallways and rooms that seem cold and lifeless. I breathe in the smell of antiseptics. It doesn't bother me anymore. I do this for my daughter, hoping for a better life for her. A few weeks ago, during my third night shift, things took a strange turn. I was checking on patients when I noticed an empty bed in room 218. I felt a chill run through me. That bed should have been occupied, but there was just a stark white sheet. It felt wrong. I thought I heard murmurs, but dismissed it as my tired mind playing tricks. I moved on, trying to focus on my duties. As the nights went by, I started seeing shadows at the edges of my vision. I tried to shake it off. Maybe I was just exhausted. But the whispers began to grow. They called my name softly, like a gentle breeze. Jenny. It felt like someone was watching me. I tried to ignore it, but it gnawed at me. Then one night, I found a small teddy bear near that empty bed. It was worn and looked old. I picked it up, feeling the faded fabric, and heard my name again, clearer this time. It sent shivers down my spine. I tried to dismiss it. Stress and lack of sleep can mess with your mind. As I walked the dim hallways, the whispers grew louder. Jenny. They surrounded me, echoing off the walls. My heart raced, and I wanted to leave, but my patients needed me. I felt like I was stuck in some twisted dream. One night, I was in the break room. The lights flickered, and a chill swept through. I glanced at the door, thinking someone was coming in, but nobody was there. My heart was pounding. Then I heard it. Help us. But there was no one around. These experiences haunted me, holding tight to my thoughts. I couldn't quite understand what was happening. I wanted to believe it was all in my head, but the feeling of something lurking in the shadows wouldn't go away. Days turned into nights, and I was still on edge. Each moment in that hospital became heavier. What if it wasn't just my imagination? What if something was waiting for me in room 218? I couldn't shake the feeling that I needed to find out more. One night, I decided to stand in front of room 218. The door felt cold to the touch. I took a deep breath and opened it slowly. The air inside felt different, thick and heavy. I could barely see inside, but I stepped in. My heart raced, and I called out softly, "Hello?" Nothing, just silence. Then I heard it again, "Jenny." But this time it sounded desperate. The hair on my arm stood on end. I wanted to run, but couldn't. Move? Was it real or just my fear? I stepped back, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something wanted me there. I left quickly and closed the door, not looking back. Each night since, I dread going back. I keep asking myself what really happened. I can't explain it, and I hate that I have to keep going back. Something is watching me, and I don't know what it is. That next night shift, I was a bundle of nerves. I couldn't stop thinking about room 218. The whispers still echoed in my mind, and the urgency behind that voice weighed heavily on my chest. I remembered the teddy bear I had found. It felt significant somehow. I resolved to take it with me, hoping it would provide some answers. As I walked down the hall, the usual sounds of the hospital were faint. The clicking of shoes echoed softly, and machines beeped in the distance. It gave me a strange sense of comfort, yet I still felt an unseen presence. I tucked the teddy bear under my arm, its matted fur oddly comforting, as if it had its own story to tell. When I reached the nurse's station, I glanced at my colleague, Mary, and noticed that she looked more exhausted than usual. "You okay?" I asked. Her eyes flickered toward room 218. "I don't know, Jenny. There's been something off about that room since the last patient left. Some people say they hear voices." My heart raced. "Have you heard them?" She shook her head, but looked uneasy. "Just be careful. The hospital has its secrets." I felt a chill. Secrets? What did that mean? But before I could ask more, the night shift began, and I needed to focus on my patients. Everything felt fine until my break came. I sat in the break room, clutching the teddy bear tightly. I heard the faint whispers again, creeping into my mind. Help us. But this time, it felt different, more urgent, almost panicked. I closed my eyes, trying to drown it out. Then, that's when I saw it. The door to room 218 was cracked open. A sliver of dark space seemed to swallow any light. A force pulled me, a bizarre fascination. What was inside? Against every rational thought I had, I stood up and walked toward the door. As I approached, the murmurs grew louder. "Help us, Jenny." It sent a wave of dread through me, but my feet moved forward. This time, I had to know. I pushed the door open wider. The room was empty, but not bare. Items remained scattered, as if a family had just left in a hurry. I stepped in, holding the bear in front of me, as if it would protect me. "Is anyone here?" I called, my voice barely above a whisper. But the answer came in the form of shadows. They twisted around me, shapes moving across the walls. My breath caught in my throat. They were figures, but they didn't feel threatening, at least not yet. Then I noticed something, a flicker of movement at the corner of the room. I turned, and what I saw stunned me. A small child stood there, eyes wide, clutching a similar teddy bear. Panic crashed over me. How could a child be in here alone? "Are you okay?" I asked softly, stepping closer. But the child didn't respond. Instead, she pointed toward the bed, where the sheets lay untouched, and I swallowed hard, my nerves igniting. Something was very wrong. That was when the lights flickered violently, plunging me into darkness, and a cold gust of wind swept through the room. I felt a rush of fear and instinctively dropped the teddy bear, a sinking sensation gripping my stomach. It rolled across the floor and came to a stop at the child's feet. What did she want from me? I wanted to turn and run, but found myself frozen. Then I heard it again, louder now. "Help us!" It echoed in my mind like a siren call. I was drowning in dread, and something deep within me urged me to stay. I couldn't ignore it. I had to understand what was happening in this place. But as I stood there, a new question surfaced. Who were they? And what happened in room 218? My heart raced as I stood frozen in room 218, staring at the child who wasn't speaking, only pointing at the bed. My instincts screamed at me to leave, but something rooted me to the spot. The shadows around me twisted, their forms shifting with every flicker of light that fought through the darkness. "Please," I whispered, unsure of who I was begging. I needed answers, but fear clawed at me. The child's eyes bore into mine, filled with a haunting sadness. I felt as if I was peering into a depth I shouldn't be, the weight of her gaze pulling me closer. Then a soft voice came through in the darkness, faint and melodic. "Help us." It was different this time. It felt like it carried the weight of many, not just one. I turned my head toward the source, hoping to find something tangible, but all I saw were shapes hovering near the wall, shrouded in shadows. "Please," I whispered, unsure of who I was begging. I needed answers, but fear clawed at me. The child's eyes bore into mine, filled with a haunting sadness. I felt as if I was peering into a depth I shouldn't be, the weight of her gaze pulling me closer. Then a soft voice came through in the darkness, faint and melodic. "Help us." It was different this time. It felt like it carried the weight of many, not just one. I turned my head toward the source, hoping to find something tangible, but all I saw were shapes hovering near the wall, shrouded in shadows. Suddenly, a loud bang echoed from somewhere else in the hospital, jerking me from my trance. I turned toward the door, my heart pounding wildly. Was I alone? I wanted to call for help, to run back to safety, but I felt the child's little hand clasp mine, squeezing tightly. She wasn't letting me go. "Stay here," she whispered, her voice soft but firm. The chill in the room deepened, wrapping around me like a shroud. "Why?" I managed to ask, fighting against the instinct to flee. "What do you need?" Her small finger directed me back to the bed. I took a hesitant step forward, drawn toward the disheveled sheets. What was I supposed to find? I reached out. My hand paused midair, as if I were about to cross an unseen barrier. Just then, a flicker of light burst through the room, illuminating the bed for an instant. My breath hitched. I saw it then, a drawing on the bedspread, faint but recognizable. It depicted a family, 2 adults, a child, and a teddy bear. But the child's face, it matched the one standing next to me. I could feel a tightness in my throat. "Who are they?" I asked, my voice shaking. "Us," she replied, her voice trembling. I looked back at her, desperate for more. "We need to go home." The urgency in her voice cut through the fear that gripped me. The chill intensified, as if the shadows were trying to hold us back, locking the door to the past. Something dark whispered behind me, an icy breath brushing against my neck. I turned, adrenaline surging, but the room was empty. The shadows writhed, and the light flickered again, sending me into another shroud of darkness. I had to make a choice, stay or run. But as I glanced back at the child, her eyes pleading with me, I felt something shift within me. I couldn't leave her. I took a deep breath and stepped closer to the bed. "Tell me," I said, determined. But before she could speak, the lights blared back on, illuminating a face in the shadows behind her, a woman with hollow eyes and a sorrowful expression. She raised her hand, and before I knew it, everything went black once more. I forced myself to breathe, heart pounding in the silence. What had I just seen? My body trembled, the darkness threatening to swallow me whole. And when the lights flickered back to life, the room was empty. The child was gone, just as the woman had vanished into shadows. I stared at the bed, questions flooding my mind. What happened in room 218? Where was the child? The weight of the unanswered threats lingered in the air, steeped in the mystery of the hospital. I turned, ready to flee, but before I reached the door, I felt a tug on my sleeve. Looking back, I saw the child's teddy bear lying on the floor, staring up at me. It looked as lonely as the child I just encountered. I picked it up, holding it tightly. "I'll help you," I whispered, urgency flooding my veins. But deep down, I could feel something sinister waiting in the corners of room 218. I had awakened something, and I wasn't sure if I was ready to face it. I stood there, clutching the teddy bear, a mix of dread and determination swirling inside me. It felt heavy, almost alive in my hands. I quickly scanned the room, but no sign of the child or the shadowy woman remained. The air was thick with silence, making my heart pound as I fought to steady my breathing. "Focus," I said to myself. I needed to figure out what to do next. As I stared at the blank walls, I thought about the drawing. Who were the adults in that picture? What had happened to this family? A soft rustling from behind the curtain caught my attention. My pulse quickened. I approached cautiously, the teddy bear still clutched in my hand. I pulled the curtain back with a sharp tug, but found only an empty bed. "Okay, this is ridiculous," I muttered under my breath. I needed to leave this place. Yet the memory of the child's desperate eyes stayed with me. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was meant to find something. I stepped out into the hallway, the fluorescent lights buzzing overhead. The hospital felt different now, more sinister. I fought the urge to turn back to room 218, but something drew me deeper into the corridor. Maybe if I searched more, I'd discover what had happened to the child and her family. The eerie atmosphere made every sound feel amplified. My footsteps echoed against the tile floor, and a distant mechanical beeping broke the stillness. I turned a corner and spotted a large window at the end of the hall. It offered a view of the night sky, stars shimmering against a backdrop of darkness. But even that didn't console me. Then I heard it, a soft sobbing coming from somewhere nearby. I followed the sound, heart racing with both fear and curiosity. Was it the child? I moved toward the nurse's station, but the sobbing grew more intense from a room farther down the hall. "Hello?" I called out, my voice barely above a whisper. I didn't want to startle whoever was in there, but the noise only intensified, echoing off the walls. I hesitated at the door, the brass handle cold under my fingers. Something inside urged me to knock, but my instincts screamed to run. In a moment of courage or folly, I pushed the door open. The room was dark, the only light coming from a flickering bedside lamp. Then I saw her, a woman hunched over in a chair, face buried in her hands. I stepped inside, ready to offer help, but froze as she looked up at me. Her eyes were red-rimmed, swimming with sorrow. "Please, help me," she choked out, her voice raw. "Are you okay?" I asked, stepping closer. "What happened?" "I can't find her," she sobbed, a fresh wave of tears spilling down her cheeks. "My daughter, she was here. Please, I need to find her." My mind raced. What does she look like? The woman glanced at the floor, her expression hollow. "She's small, with pigtails. She has a teddy bear." My stomach dropped. This couldn't be a coincidence. "Her name is Emily," the woman interrupted, her voice breaking. "You've seen her?" The ground seemed to shift beneath me. I needed answers, but I felt an overwhelming weight of despair creeping back in. "I saw her, but I don't know where she is now." As the words left my mouth, the lights flickered again, casting shadows across the woman's face. "No!" she jerked back. "You shouldn't be here!" Then everything went dark again. I almost screamed as a harsh visibility returned, illuminating a ghastly reflection in the glass. A figure stood behind the woman, staring vacantly at me. I didn't have time to think. I turned and bolted for the door, fear propelling me. Whatever I had touched in room 218 was now pulling me deeper into this nightmare. I needed answers. I needed to escape. But one thing was clear. I was not alone in this hospital. As I barreled down the hallway, every instinct in me screamed to get as far away as possible. The sterile smell of the hospital washed over me, sharp and disorienting. I darted past nurses and patients who seemed oblivious to the chaos unfolding just beyond their sight. My heart raced as I glanced back over my shoulder, half expecting the woman or that ghastly figure to follow me. I rounded another corner and shoved open the nearest exit door. The fresh air hit me like a wave, a welcome relief from the suffocating darkness of the hospital. I stood outside, gasping for breath, trying to collect my thoughts. I needed to understand what was happening. Then I remembered the little girl, Emily. Clutching the teddy bear so tightly had felt like a lifeline, and now it seemed to pull me back inside. What if she was still in danger? My resolve sharpened like a knife. I couldn't just leave. Reluctantly, I slipped back through the door, setting my sights on the nurse's station. Maybe they had seen something, or knew where Emily might be. I pushed my way past a clattering of medical equipment and spoke to the nearest nurse, a stern lady with tired eyes. "Excuse me, I need help. A little girl named Emily. Do you know her?" She looked up, bewildered. "That name doesn't ring a bell. You sure she's a patient here?" Frustration bubbled inside me, but my voice was steady. "Her mother. She was in a room nearby, looking for her. Please, I think she's lost." The nurse's gaze shifted to the computer screen in front of her. "I'll check. We have so many patients."
She began typing, but I could sense her skepticism. Suddenly, another nurse popped her head up from behind a chart. "Did you say Emily? I may have heard something, but I didn't see her." The second nurse turned and quickly opened a file, and I caught a glimpse of a familiar face on the page, Emily's smile illuminated in a photo. "She went missing a few hours ago," the first nurse continued, showing signs of urgency. "The family was in room 220. My heart sank. I needed to hurry. "Where is that?" "Down the hall, to your right, but it's late and I'm not sure you should be." I was already jogging away before she could finish. Room 220 loomed ahead, its door.
I pushed it open, and the scene inside stopped me cold. The room was empty, but the bed was perfectly made. A bright pink teddy bear sat on the pillow. My chest tightened at the sight. "That's hers," I whispered, stepping closer. I could feel a pull, a strange force urging me to search the room. I scanned the floor, the closet, anything that could hide a clue. Then I saw it, a small scrap of paper tucked under the bed. I crouched down and grabbed it, heart pounding. Scribbled in shaky handwriting were the words, "The shadows hide her." "What does that even mean?" I muttered, my voice barely above a whisper. As I stood up, the lights flickered again, and a chilling draft swept through the room. I sensed a presence closing in. "Emily?" I called out, dread creeping back in. But the room responded only with silence. "Please, if you can hear me." Then I sensed movement outside the door. My stomach dropped. Someone was coming. I had to hide, but where? My heart raced as the footsteps grew louder. I decided then, whatever this nightmare was, I needed to confront it. That's when the door swung open. A figure stood silhouetted in the doorway, blocking my escape. I stared, trying to make sense of who or what it was. The hallway light behind them cast a long shadow that twisted unnaturally against the wall. "What are you doing in here?" The voice was low and gravelly, matching the unease swirling in my stomach. "I'm looking for Emily," I managed to say, but the words felt weak even to me. The figure shifted slightly, and I caught a glimpse of a familiar face. It was a security guard, not one I recognized, but somehow a reassuring sight among the chaos. "You should leave. This place is off limits." "Emily is missing. I think she might be in danger." I struggled to keep my voice steady, the rising panic threatening to overwhelm me. The guard hesitated, glancing back toward the hallway. Then he stepped inside the room, closing the door behind him. "You don't understand. This isn't just about her. There are things happening here that, well, they're not right." My heart raced. "What do you mean? What's going on?" His expression hardened. "You don't want to know. Just leave. The shadows. People don't return when they get too close." "Shadows?" I repeated, suddenly aware of the creeping darkness in the corners of the room. "What are you talking about?" "Look," he gestured toward the pink teddy bear on the bed. "That's a sign. Kids are drawn to them. They think the bear is safe, but it's not." I felt the weight of those words. "But Emily, she was holding it. I can't just leave her." A flicker of doubt crossed his face. "You don't understand what she might be involved in. Trust me, you need to go. Now." Just then, the lights dimmed further, and the shadows stretched ominously. Hum filled the air, vibrating through the walls. I could almost hear whispers wrapped in the sound, urging me to either flee or dig deeper. Then, the unmistakable sound of a giggle floated into the room, light yet somehow laced with despair. It was a child's laugh. "Emily!" I called, moving past the guard towards the noise, but he grabbed my arm firmly. "Don't! You'll regret it!" His voice was urgent, but the whisper of that laughter pulled at me like a magnet. Ignoring him, I charged for the door, throwing it open. The laughter faded down the corridor. I hesitated, glancing back at the guard, but there was something almost pleading in his eyes that fueled my resolve. I sprinted down the hallway, my heart pounding louder than ever. "Emily!" I shouted. "Where are you?" Then I rounded another corner, and there she was, standing in the center of the hallway, her little body clothed in a pale gown, with the teddy bear still clutched tightly to her chest. "Emily!" I called again, relief flooding me. But as I approached, I noticed her eyes were blank, staring through me as if I wasn't there. Then the lights flickered again, and her form wavered. That's when I saw it, a dark shadow starting to creep from behind her, slowly enveloping the space between us. The shadow slithered toward Emily, dark and vicious, like ink spilled across a blank page. I froze, unable to process what I was seeing. The tug of dread mixed with the desperate need to reach her, but something warned me to stay back. "Emily!" I yelled again, trying to pierce through the veil of darkness. Her blank stare unnerved me. It felt like she was lost, trapped in a world I couldn't reach. I took a cautious step forward. "Emily, can you hear me?" Her expression didn't change. The laughter from moments before felt like a cruel joke now, echoing in my mind. What had I walked into? As the shadow crept closer, it whispered to me, faintly at first, like someone murmuring secrets meant only for me. I shook my head, dismissing it, desperate to focus on Emily. The guard's warning echoed louder than the whispers. I glanced back toward the door. He was standing just within, panic etched on his face. "Get away from her!" he shouted, his voice shaking. It was too late. The shadow engulfed Emily, swirling around her like a storm, and I felt the world around me tilt. "Flee!" The guard lunged towards me, trying to pull me back, but I couldn't take my eyes off Emily. The once innocent child had vanished into the dark mass, leaving behind only the teddy bear. As if sensing my despair, the bear's eyes glowed slightly with an eerie light, almost beckoning me closer. I hesitated. Was it a trap or a chance to save her? Before I could decide, the shadow exploded outward, shifting and swirling violently. A claw-like hand shot toward me, icy cold. As I stumbled back, the guard grabbed my shoulder, wrenching me away and dragging me toward the exit. "Run!" His voice was urgent now, tinged with fear. I didn't need another invitation. We sprinted down the corridor, the shadow's darkness clawing behind us, seeping through the walls like smoke. We reached the stairwell, bursting through the door. I glanced back, half expecting to see Emily, but the hallway was quiet, just silence wrapped in that lingering whisper. "What was that?" I gasped, breathless as we descended the stairs. The guard took a deep breath, his face pale. "You shouldn't have gone in there. That place is cursed." "Cursed?" I echoed, trying to wrap my head around it. "But Emily, I saw her." "She's not the same. Once they get taken, it's not easy to bring them back. Trust me." The words felt like ice in my veins. There was a chance I had lost her forever, and I didn't know how to explain it to myself. As we reached the ground floor, the lights flickered again. For a moment, I thought I saw Emily's silhouette, but then it faded into the darkness. "What now?" I asked, dread filling the silence around us. He looked at me, a mix of fear and determination in his eyes. "Now we have to fight it. It won't stop until it gets what it wants." My heart sank. "What does it want?" "Us," he said, and I realized the terror was far from over. Then everything went dark. I stumbled forward, blinded and disoriented, as the darkness pressed around us. Just as suddenly, a flicker of light pierced through. It was faint, but enough to cast shadows that danced along the walls. The guard and I caught our breath, panting in the eerie stillness. "What happened?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "I don't know," he replied, his brow furrowing.
But we have to keep moving. That shadow, it can't follow us too far from where it inhabits. Nervous energy crackled in the air as we passed down a stark white corridor, illuminated by the sickly fluorescent lights above. Each step felt heavy, like we were wading through a thick fog that clung to our skin. I couldn't shake the feeling that eyes were watching us, lurking just beyond the reach of the light. As we moved deeper into the hospital, I hardened my resolve, trying to push down the fear that threatened to choke me. "We need to get Emily back," I asserted, but uncertainty crept into my voice. How do we even do that? The guard hesitated, glancing around as if the shadows had ears. "There's a room, a place where things are kept. If we can get there, maybe we can find a way to draw her back. But it's risky." "Risky? What's more risky than losing a child to a shadow?" He didn't respond, just nodded slowly. I followed him as we navigated through the dimly
lit space, every creak of the floorboard or flicker of the lights making my heart race. Then something caught my eye. In one of the rooms to our left, a figure stood at the window, silhouetted against the glass. I squinted, the light barely illuminating the curved shape of a person. They turned, revealing eyes that glimmered like cold steel. "Wait!" I grabbed the guard's arm. "Do you see that?" He looked where I was pointing, and his face went pale. "We can't stop. That, whoever it is, might be another victim of the shadow. We have to." Before he could finish, the figure stepped forward, gliding through the doorway with an unnatural grace. It was a woman, dressed in a hospital gown, her long hair hanging lifeless around her shoulders. "What do you want?" she whispered, though the words felt heavy in the air. I took a cautious step back. "We're looking for Emily," I said, a tremor in my voice. "Have you seen her?" She tilted her head, and I noticed the way her fingers twitched, as if something was pulling at her. She's in the dark. There's no coming back." That hit me like a punch to the gut. "No, there has to be a way," I insisted. But before she could answer, the lights flickered again, and the shadow from earlier surged back, sweeping through the room. The air chilled instantly, and the woman's eyes widened in terror. "Run!" the guard shouted. We bolted, adrenaline surging through our veins, as we dashed past the figure who melted back into the shadows. It felt like a force was hunting us, fueled by the words of that woman. As we raced toward the exit, I glanced back one last time and saw her staring at us, mouth opening in a silent scream. "Why did you look?" the guard yelled. I didn't have time to respond. The darkness enveloped us, squeezing tightly as we blindly barreled forward. Then everything went dark once again. I gasped as the darkness lifted like a heavy fog, revealing a small room bathed in unsettling green light. It had a sterile smell, mingling with something sweet and rotten. My eyes were still adjusting when I noticed the guard beside me, jaw clenched, eyes darting around as if anticipating another attack. "Where are we?" I managed to ask, my voice trembling. "The supply room," he said, pointing to the shelves lined with boxes. "We can hide here for a moment." We burst inside, and he shut the door behind us, holding his breath as he pressed his back against it. I could hear the rapid rhythm of my heart, a stark contrast to the silence that enveloped us. But even in this momentary refuge, my mind churned with questions. "Do you think that shadow is gone?" He shook his head. "I don't know. We need to find a way to the control center. It's where they keep records on everything. Patients, treatments, anomalies. There may be something about the shadow we can use." The thought of digging through cold medical records as danger lurked nearby sent a shiver down my spine. What if we can't find anything? Then we find another way to draw Emily back, but we can't stay here. He took a breath and quickly opened the door, peering into the dimness of the hallway. I followed him, glancing back at the shelves that felt suddenly too much like a tomb. We crept out, the fluorescent lights flickering overhead, each flicker gnawing at my nerves. We moved cautiously down the narrow corridor, scanning both ends for any signs of the shadow. Just as we turned a corner, I felt a chill grace my skin, a feeling of being watched that made my breath hitch. "Listen," I whispered, stopping in my tracks. Ahead of us lay another room, its door slightly ajar. Faint giggles seeped through, the sound bubbling like water in a stream. I glanced at the guard. Confusion etched his face. "Should we check?" I asked, already drawn to the door. "Yes," he hesitated, still calculating, "but be careful." With bated breath, I pushed the door open further. Inside, the room was dim, but I could make out several beds. And there, in the corner, was a child, no older than 6, sitting up, her dark hair an unkempt halo around her head. Her eyes were wide with innocence, but there was a flicker of something else. "Help me," she called, reaching out to us. "She won't let me leave." "Emily?" I said, my heart racing. "Stop!" the guard yelled, stepping in front of me as if I were about to stumble into a trap. "This could be a trick." Ignoring him, I took a step forward. "Emily, what's going on? Where is—" Before I could finish, the lights flickered violently, and the room darkened. I caught a glimpse of a shadowy shape coiling behind the girl, inching closer. "Run!" the guard shouted, pulling me back just as the darkness surged forward, swallowing the light. I felt something brush against my arm, something cold and grasping. Panic surged within me. "I need to get her!" I yelled, but the guard's grip tightened. "No!" he screamed, and with one swift motion, he pulled me away from the door. We dashed down the hallway again, but I couldn't shake the image of Emily's terrified face, the whispers bouncing around in my mind. Just then, a loud crash rang out behind us. We froze, hearts pounding. Someone, or something, was in the hospital with us, and it wasn't interested in letting us go. "Keep moving," the guard shouted, forcing me forward as I looked back out of a mix of hope and dread. That's when I saw it, gliding toward us from the shadows, a terrifying figure growing clearer. Just as I thought it would reach us, the lights dimmed, and everything went black once more. I felt my heart pounding in my chest, a frantic drumbeat drowning out the silence that enveloped. When the lights flickered back to life, I stumbled forward into the dimly lit corridor, desperately searching for a way out. The guard and I moved hurriedly, every shadow looming larger than the last. "Where to now?" I gasped, terror riding my breath as I took in my surroundings. "Just down the hall," he muttered, but I could see uncertainty in his eyes. "We need to reach the control room. We can find what the hospital keeps hidden there." With every step closer to the exit, I felt the weight of what we were looking for, and what we were running from. Emily and that shadow. The urgency wrapped around me like the threads of fate. As we turned another corner, the flickering lights cast wavering shadows that danced ominously on the white walls. Then I heard it again, that faint giggle, soft, light, and suddenly drowning me with a memory as heavy as stone. "Emily?" I called out, my voice strained with longing. "Where are you?" The laughter answered, rippling through the corridors like a dark lullaby. Something was terribly wrong. "Don't," the guard began, but I felt compelled to follow the sound, to believe that Emily was close. Suddenly, the wall to my right opened, exposing the dimly lit room within. My instincts urged me to enter, but the guard grabbed my arm again, fear flashing across his face. "I told you, it might be a trap," he hissed. But I pushed forward, the tug of that innocent laughter drawing me in. I can't just leave her. Inside, the atmosphere was thick with secrecy. Shelves lined with forgotten items loomed over us, casting long shadows. The giggle echoed again. "Help me, please." "Emily!" I shouted, stepping deeper into the gloom. The walls felt like they were closing in, and that shadow loomed behind me, whispering, dancing with the flickers of light. "Find her! She must be here!" I urged, searching frantically, my feet moving on their own, as I approached the corner of the room where a small bed lay.
The fabric on the bed shimmered with the remnants of childhood dreams, a pink coverlet and a faded teddy bear. "Please, help me!" Emily's voice pierced through the darkness, and I turned fleetingly, hoping to see her standing there, just out of reach. My breath trembled in my throat. "Where are you, Emily?" But I was only met with silence. I turned, desperate, and suddenly the light snapped back on fully, revealing the room aglow in harsh, sterile brightness. The guard was no longer by my side. The shadows twisted and writhed around me, and I felt a chill crawl up my spine. I turned, and there it was, the dark figure, fully visible now, standing where I last saw the guard. Its eyes glinted with malice as it took a step forward, and my instincts screamed, "Run!" I bolted toward the door, but just as I reached for the handle, the figure lunged. Everything went black. When I came to, I was outside in the cool night air, trembling as I found myself alone. The hospital loomed behind me, an unsettling giant wrapped in shadows, whispering my name. "Emily?" I called out, but only eerie silence met my ears. I staggered away from the hospital, the teddy bear still clasped in my arms. I could still hear the whispers echoing behind me, but I wasn't looking back. Weeks went by since that night, and I tried to move on. Yet, every time my thoughts drifted toward the hospital, the shadows would return, wrapping around my mind like a familiar, cold embrace. Sometimes I felt a pull, that faint giggle echoing in my head, begging me to return. I don't know what I saw that night, whether it was real or a manifestation of my exhaustion, but one thing stayed with me. The bear, once a relic of childhood comfort, now sat heavy on my shelf, bearing the weight of my unanswered questions. Did Emily escape? And what truly resided in that room? I took a deep breath and walked away, knowing there would always be mysteries left unsolved, some darkness that remained hidden in the shadows, waiting for someone brave or foolish enough to confront it again.